first of all, there's two things that you did for me in my career that were incredible. Number one, I brought up the 09 playoff series.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
No, the 09 when Celtics Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
When we beat you guys didn't have KG. I'm fine admitting that. You guys didn't have KG.
Yeah.
But you were coming off a Chicago series where you averaged like 24 a game. You had a 51-point game in game 6. You shot like 47% from 3. And so Stan going into that series was like, you have zero help responsibilities. So if you guys run a strong side pick and roll where you're in the corner and Rondo's coming middle and Perk is rolling, you have no help responsibilities. You are never required to tag. So my job was just to chase you. And you didn't shoot well that series. And I remember we win in the Garden in game 7. And it was an important moment for me. You did two things. You came over to me and acknowledged that I guarded you well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went to the press conference. You did something which not a lot of guys will do. And that's you acknowledged that I did a good job. It gave me such confidence. It was like that whole playoff run was the turning point in my career. And that moment for me was massive. I just want you to know that. The second thing was when I was in Milwaukee and you were in Miami, we played you guys in the first round. And I know it happened in Milwaukee, so it had to have been game 3 or 4. And you came up to me during a free throw or coming out of a timeout.
Yeah.
And you said to me, you said something along the lines of, I see it on your face. I see it in your body language. You're not yourself. You talked about it a little bit ago. You said being the most valuable employee is being the same guy consistently over and over. And in a way, I had lost myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, he's right. Did you ever lose yourself, by the way? Did you ever feel that? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I think Skiles was your coach?
No, he had gotten fired. Or he had mutually parted ways in January, about a month before I got there.
Who was coaching then?
Jim Boylan.
Okay.
Not the Chicago Bulls Jim Boylan, the older one that was with T. Lue in Cleveland.
So the thing is that there's no point where you're like, we're competing against each other. Like I can pay homage to greatness. You know, I see people working. I see people who love it. Those are the people who I want to support. You know, even doing an interview, to have a conversation with media. This is not a scolding session. It's not, you know, it's just, it's accountability in a good way. A lot of times speaking to the media is therapy. So to be able to do that, we have this responsibility, not only to share the game, to speak the game, to communicate the game. You know, every time a reporter asks us a question, like, sometimes it may be a dumb question. Just say, can you please reword that question? I'm not understanding what you're asking me. But then even the communication with each other. Like, I don't have beef with another guy in the league. He's getting paid just like I am. And he's trying to win and do all these things. And I know there's a struggle for all of us. But if you pull back the curtain, there's a little kid in there that's so excited about playing this game and just remembers who he loved and how he wanted to get to this moment he's at. So I had to always remember, play for him. You could see that in each kid, you know, / player, like who they were when they first came in, especially if they were younger when they came in the game. I was like, I remembered you at Duke and, you know, the energy. And it's like, that's why I said that. And I've seen that because you wanted to win and you were in such a tough situation at the time. And I had been there. You know, I had been there in places where I was the victim, I was the villain, I was the one that was being counted out. And I just wanted to remind you that this is going to pass. But in this process, don't lose yourself because you still have to, you're preparing yourself to be something great for somebody down the line. And I saw it firsthand because as much as I lost in Seattle and as much as I wanted to stay there when I got traded to Boston in 2007, there was something greater in store for me. And it was because I didn't lose myself. It was because I was sitting there just waiting to be served up on a platter to something great that I can take myself over the top. And that happened to be playing in Boston, it was such the most amazing situation. And then going to Miami and then being in even equally great situation to be able to put ourselves in a chance to win. And I was so happy for you when you went to Philly, because now you're in that position where now you're seeing success consistently, regardless of what happened at the end of the year. Now you're in a situation where you're prime time, and that's the thing I think people forget with success is like, you can't become downtrodden or beat up by the media. Remember where you are, because the guys that make it to the NBA they can have such a mentality of, woe is me, my life is the worst. I need to do that. And then you make the All-Star team. And then everybody's like, oh, well, I'm trying to do this. And I need to work. Then you make the Olympic team. No matter what levels you ascend to, being drafted is a great sign of success. But that doesn't mean you've made it, but you still have to continue to work to get better. And if you ever think that you're great, that's the minute you slide. And that was always for me. Somebody asked me, so when did you realize you were great? I said, never. I was like, never.
When you retired?
Yeah. I never sat back and counted my chips, because I was always afraid that if I slid at some point, then somebody's going to catch up to me. Like, is somebody going to, and the thing is, I'm telling everybody what I do working out. You can see it. It's documented. Can you commit to it? That's the thing that greatness supplies us all, is the ability to find what it is that you can do well, but can you commit to it? Everybody in the beginning of the year is going to win the NBA championship. Everybody in the beginning of the year wants to make the All-Star team. Like, everybody has these goals until it gets hard. And when it gets hard, oh man, coach don't like me. I want to get traded. This player, screw him. That's what the bad teams do. And even the good teams, when they hit that stride of complacency, mediocrity, like struggle, they just talk more. You sit on the plane, as you mentioned earlier. Also, some of the times that I missed the most, because my bank wad used to be like that thick, because you're playing poker on the plane.
It was Blu-ray for me.
Blu-ray too. Like we had all these games going, and you got to make sure you come with some ammunition. But those are the times when we got so good and we became a unit, because we communicated with each other, and we didn't run off the separate corners of the plane and just said, screw everybody. No, it was like, come on, we lost. Let's go get the card game. We talk about it, and then all of a sudden we have fun. When we get off that 3 to 5 hour flight, wherever we were going, we were square with each other. And we knew, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to come in and get some shots up. So it was never animosity, because we got to do this. It's too long of a season to be mad at somebody. You know that. Like, you got to be able to get that stuff off your chest.
The thing you said to me in that 2013 playoff series, I think it was such a valuable lesson in a different type of personal accountability. Because at that point in my career, I had some fucking punches to the face, particularly early in Orlando. And, I never was going to start for Stan Van Gundy, right? He didn't view me as that. He leaves. Dwight gets traded. That year before I got traded to Milwaukee was like a fun year, even though we weren't winning, because it was like the first time I got to be a leader. There was no expectations, right? And it was like the first time Jacques Vaughn was like, yeah, go move, go play. And it was like, in a way fun. And then you get so I had taken personal accountability, but it was a different type, because I get traded. It's a little bit of a shock to the system. I mean, year 7, first time getting traded. It was nothing against the city of Milwaukee, the Bucks organization. It was just a weird team. It was a weird, like, dynamic on the roster.
No.
Interim coach, nothing against Jim Boylan. It was just, I kind of got placed in this situation, and I lost myself for a couple months. And I was like, I'm still doing my work, but like I lost that edge. I lost that, like, nah, fuck it. I'm not going to worry and victimize myself here because of the circumstances, right? Can't allow that to happen again.
No.
It was super valuable.